but he has to go out there and prove it. Right now, he has to be considered fourth. He has not shown on an NFL field with any consistency, he hasn't had a lot of reps, that he's better than Fitzpatrick, right? Like, he hasn't shown that yet, who's been a decent low-end starter at times throughout his career, or at least an excellent backup. I suspect he'll be better by the end of this season or by the middle of this season. But as of right now, Dak, Daniel Jones, Fitzpatrick, and then him.
All right, here we go, fellas. After an 8-year layoff, Tim Tebow is back in the NFL. He signed his contract this morning with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He'll be on the field today for the team's offseason program as he sets out to compete for a roster spot at tight end. Tebow has told those around him that he knows the challenge that is ahead of him. As usual, he embraces it. Bless you, Stephen A. Tebow had this to say: I want to thank the Jaguars for the opportunity to compete and earn a chance to be a part of this team. I know it will be a challenge, but it is a challenge I embrace. I am dedicated to taking the direction of our coaching staff and learning from my teammates. I appreciate everyone's support as I embark on this new journey. Max, do you have a problem with the Jags signing Tim Tebow?
I do not have a problem with the Jags signing Tim Tebow, nor do I think he needs to apologize for the opportunity. Tim Tebow is one of the greatest college players of all time. His college coach is now the head coach for Jacksonville, which is his hometown, by the way. And he is an enormous celebrity in the media. And everyone always said, well, he's a great athlete. He could be a good football player, just not quarterback. Okay, so they're giving him a shot at another position. By the way, he still has to make the team. I will say this, however, Stephen A. A lot of people have used Tebow's situation to discuss Colin Kaepernick, to link the two somehow. I don't think they're linked. But I will say this. I think it's good to do that. I think it is good to use anyone who gets an opportunity, especially if you feel like they don't deserve it, or they haven't earned it, or others are more worthy, to use that as a chance to bring up the fact that Kaepernick hasn't even been given a tryout. No one has even looked at him. And I would say, Stephen A., that it would be nice for Tim Tebow, who has been given this opportunity, he doesn't have to apologize for it, but it would be nice for him to mention Kaepernick's name, to say, hey, I've been given this opportunity. A lot of people are upset about it. I'm very grateful for it. You know, Colin Kaepernick should also get a look. I know the two aren't linked, but I like linking them, and I think Tebow should too.
I have a problem with it. And in the interest of full disclosure, I texted Tim Tebow a couple of weeks ago, and I told him that if anybody deserves, something along this line, it's him. Just from a human perspective. I think that he's one of the great, great people that I've had the pleasure of meeting in this business. He's a really, really good dude. His heart's in the right place. He's very charitable and philanthropic with his intentions and his actions. He's a pillar of that community, especially. Was a star at Florida State, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm happy for him, meaning Tim Tebow specifically. But when you look at, just the totality of the situation. Once again, if I'm going to bring up white privilege when I brought up Steve Nash getting the job in Brooklyn, is this not an example of white privilege? What brother is getting this opportunity? Now, that makes people uncomfortable because we're talking about race. When I say something like that, let me be the first to say, I don't give a damn how you feel. I mean what I say. It is white privilege. Because that's not something that's happening for any brothers out there. You've never played the position. You've been retired from the game for years. When you did play, you were a quarterback on the NFL level, which you were not that good at. You had an opportunity when you were an active participant as an NFL player to participate and play tight end, play special teams and stuff like that, but you wanted to be a quarterback. And now here you are in this position. Why do I bring that up? That's not to point the finger at Tim Tebow. It's to remind everybody is that this opportunity doesn't happen if Urban Meyer is not the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars were 1-15 last year. They absolutely stunk. As far as I'm concerned, you could have got an equipment manager to play for that squad as bad as they look, okay? They didn't think about calling Tim Tebow then. They didn't think about calling Tim Tebow the year before that when they were having their problems. But all of a sudden, Urban Meyer comes there. And as a result, Tim Tebow gets the job, gets an opportunity, to get a job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He got that job because of the relationships. And as I've stated on many, many occasions on this show, when George Floyd ultimately was murdered by Derek Chauvin, the cop, and you saw people rioting and protesting in the streets, it wasn't just about him. It was about the symbolism of what transpired, because black people have repeatedly felt like we have the proverbial knee on our neck. We constantly have to scratch and claw our way. And when we see someone of a different ilk, of a different ethnicity, getting opportunities we know we would never get, that's where the word white privilege comes, the words white privilege come from. And you yourself, Max, have been on the record. And I saw you saying this to somebody a couple of weeks ago when I wasn't on the show. You were talking about how white privilege needs to be addressed, but you're about lifting everybody up. You're not about giving up your white privilege, et cetera, et cetera. And my response to that months ago when I had that conversation with you is that if you have a 50-yard head start and you get to race and we're both going at the same speed, I could never catch you. In other words, there's no way to eradicate white privilege without white individuals giving up some of their privilege. And the reality is that Urban Meyer is in a position where he can exercise. I'm not saying he did it for Tim Tebow because he was white or anything like that. It has nothing to do with it race in regards to that. I'm simply saying when you see an opportunity like that happen, it is clear that it happens for white folks and it doesn't happen for everybody else.
What I would
say,
that's
problematic.
Stephen A., I think that's an interesting point. The reason I say you need to lift up instead of ask people to kind of step down is this is human nature. The people living their one and only life,
Sure.
if they're given an opportunity, are usually, by and large, most people are not passing that up because of some larger social issue that may be abstract to them, right? So because that is the reality, then I think the best course of action is to lift up. When I say to you something like when you were protesting the process, because you said a black GM would never be given the latitude to tank for a number of seasons.
Correct.
My point is not to say, therefore, no one should be able to if it's a good strategy. We can debate that another time. Right. My point is just insist. Then it's incumbent upon those who are privileged to insist that everyone is given that latitude and shown the respect as a human being to make the best decision.
Hold on, this is an important question. Let me get in here, Stephen A. How do they insist it? How are you going to insist it? So if other people aren't getting the right opportunity.
For example, on this show, we discuss African-American coaches. And Stephen A. will talk about the paucity of African-American coaches and use this as a platform to address it and bring pressure to bear on the league. I lend my voice to that every single time, absolutely, and will oftentimes bring that up as an issue independently because it's an important one.
And I appreciate the fact that you do that more than you'll ever know, and I've always given you credit for that, Max. The only thing I've ever challenged is that you know that's not going to happen. In other words, when you talk about people surrendering their privileged positions and insisting that others get lifted up, you know they can insist all they want to, but if it doesn't coincide with folks surrendering some of their privilege, the level of progress that we aspire to have is not going to happen. And so what I'm saying is it's not going to happen. So in the end, what it comes down to is this. If you look at a guy like an Urban Meyer, because I want to stay on course here with Tim Tebow, I love Tim Tebow. I truly do as a person. I really do. And I'm wishing him nothing but the best. And he knows that, and I'm not rooting against him. But it didn't go unnoticed. When you saw Marcus Spears, when you saw Ryan Clark, when you saw Damian Woody and a host of other individuals, it didn't escape any of us that all of these African Americans that were speaking, even though they didn't go where I'm going, they made sure to remind everybody this wasn't an opportunity earned. Tim Tebow has a relationship with Urban Meyer. And because he has that relationship, years removed from football, having never played the position, here he comes and he finds himself in a position in his mid-30s to try to play a position that people have toiled and worked and scratched and clawed their way just to try to get that opportunity. He's getting it because of his relationship. And it's not something that black people can brag about. because those opportunities do not happen for us.
And I'm focusing. I hear you. I think those are very good points. And what I'm focusing on is Tebow.